Hey everyone, Carmel from Fingers of Fury here. Today I'm going to go over the Big Boss, our full-size two-handed portable hangboard. And this is part of our Boss lineup, which I call the Boss lineup because they're all like plain edge, so just a straight across edge, and they all share the same depth here, so depth of 20 millimeters, but also the dimension from here to here, so they all work with the same insert. So if you buy inserts for the Baby Boss, the Final Boss, or the Big Boss, they all work with each other, so you don't have to rebuy those. And so to explain the Boss lineup, because there can be some confusion, so because there's some overlap, the Baby Boss is the most obvious, is our single hand option and our lightest. Then the next step up from there is the Final Boss, which is a two-handed board, but is quite a bit narrower than this. And it's also been thinned out on the back side to make it maybe around a third of the weight of the Big Boss. And then the Big Boss is our widest option and heaviest option as well. And when I say heavy, this is just 1.3 pounds. So with the Final Boss being probably our most ideal board for the crag because it's so packable, because it's smaller and much lighter. This is still fairly light. Some wooden hangboards, portable hangboards that is, are still around that 1.3 pound mark. This being a little bit smaller than those, so it is denser, but I designed this primarily for use at the gym, I would say, because it's our toughest board and it's also the widest. So if you have wider shoulders especially, this is going to be the board that you're going to want to use the most. And I'm going to go over some of those points. So I'll start with the basic features of this board, which are the same across a lot of our products. But to start, this is made from a textured aluminum, which is also washable. So if it ever gets greasy, you're able to wash it off. And the texture I usually say is a little bit nicer than wood, a little bit more texture than wood, but not so abrasive like you'd see on some of the polyurethane stuff out there. Then one of the main advantages of the aluminum that's overlooked is this integrated eyelet. And what that does for you is that you're able to get a very small distance from your fingers to this eyelet. So if you're using a loading pin, for example, would be the main example where this is so beneficial, is that you'll see a lot of people will have to stack things underneath their feet or shrug their shoulder in order to lift the weight off the ground. And that's because most portable hangboards have a sling, not a sling, but cordage across, which just adds a distance between your fingers and where you're usually able to clip in. So this is the minimum distance. So it's going to be your best chance at not having to stack weight. And so that's going to be important for short people or people who are lifting a lot of weight where the stack is quite high and you need that distance that's typically taken up by that cordage. Then this also makes it easy to attach to weight machines. So if you want to attach this to a lat pull down tower or other cable machine, again, this is the best thing for it because sometimes those start quite low. So if you had extra distance down, it might be at your nose level by the time you clip it in. Or some cable towers, there's the pulleys are down at the bottom, and if you again have the cordage, you'll have to stand on something to be able to lift it up. Again, this is ideal for that. And again, it's also, you're able to use it as a portable hangboard at the crag because you can fit up to an 18 millimeter sling in this hole. So it's best of all the advantages, or best of all, it's the best of both worlds. And so I want to mention as an aside why we would even want to use a two-handed board in general for lifting weight from the floor. Now that it's become popular to do that sort of stuff, I'm seeing that almost everyone is using a single-handed board. And that makes total sense. The single-handed boards are the most portable, the lightest, the most easy to pack with you and take to the gym. However, I find that it ends up bothering my back more so than using this. And that may not make sense at first because you think that if you're going to use this, you have to lift twice as much weight, so that might be twice as bad for your back. However, when you're lifting with one hand, it's an asymmetrical load, and it's also at twice the volume, and usually it's the volume that does it. So this is going to cut your volume in half, and then it's also going to be a symmetric load. So that load, to me, usually ends up feeling like less strain on my back than using the one hand. So that's the huge advantage to this, is I see a lot of single hand lifting. If that's something that's starting to bother your back, actually you might want to try a single hand board for all these floor lifts that you're doing. So I wanted to point that out right away, and that's the reason why I made this board, and I think it's something that's overlooked a lot. So for the next thing that I'm going to point out, I just want to let it be known that this I've now swapped out for one of the prototypes. This is one of the initial boards that I made. I'm just handling a brand new one a little bit too much, and I don't want to mess it up because I do want to keep that one more pristine. And so for this next demonstration, it's going to be for our inserts that I mentioned earlier. So the point I want to make is on the load cell type devices that are being used now. On those devices, the advantage of the eyelet doesn't come in as much. The eyelet does make it so every time you pull, it's a bit more consistent, because this is always going to be perfectly centered in the same spot on the board every time. It's not a moving piece like a piece of cordage would be, obviously. But on those two-handed wooden portable hangboards, a lot of times too, it's not an adjustable edge. It's a different edge on different sides of the board. So you might have to flip it 180 or from side to side in order to get a different edge size if that's part of your workout. And that's obviously more time that you have to take and a little bit more effort. With this, you can keep everything in place. It starts as a 20mm edge, and then you have 3mm inserts. And what I'm showing here is that you can keep the inserts in the center and not have to have them somewhere else. You can just have them easily accessible here. And I just sold out of most of my inserts, so I only have 2 to show, but they'll be enough for the example. So again, you can have them in here, and I think I forgot to mention that these are a flexure design, and so they're stuck in there until you need to move them, and then you can just pop them out, and I'll just do this in real time so you can see how easy it is. Pop it out and move it over, so those are in there. And again, you can put the board down, you don't have to worry about them falling out. And when you're done, you can stack as many as you want beforehand, but when you're done, you can throw it right back in the middle and have them where you need them to be. And you can either, on the Big Boss, it's easy enough to grab them by the sides, but you also have this opening here where you can pull it out. And these should last a really long time. They're made from ABS plastic, and if you ever find that they no longer hold in there very well, like that, you should easily be able to just bend this up a tiny bit and get a bit more force pushing back up on it. So these should probably last you a lifetime, and that's how that works. Alright, so that's a basic overview of the Big Boss portable hangboard. If you have any questions, feel free to put a comment in YouTube or go on my website. You can send me an email, or you can go on Instagram where I'm fairly active and leave me a message there. But if you have any questions, let me know. This is, again, my personal favorite hangboard, and I've been using this for over a year now. And I've made a lot of products for different types of training, but I always go back to this. If you haven't been able to lift your maximum weight from the floor, all training things aside, I find like it's a very empowering way to train your fingers to be able to see that weight go up with your fingertips alone. So if you have a chance to use one, I highly recommend it. This is my favorite product by far. I just love its simplicity. I love the ease of use, that I'm doing half as much than I would with a single-handed board, at least volume-wise. And again, I love this, so if you have a chance to use it, I hope you like it.